I'm here with PJ Ferguson from Tennessee Strange, and he's a guy that I actually know only through
fantasy football.
That's right. I started a fantasy football league last year with the bums of Broadway, and this man came in and he robbed us all of our money. He came and wrecked shop.
I think I won in 3 of the 5 categories,
Okay.
including first place.
I want to say your social media presence is growing, but it seems like you're upping your game where I see all these videos of you playing in these packed honky-tonks, and I'm like, wait, that guy's in my fantasy football league? And he's like playing like a rock star right now. And you and I have talked a little bit. After talking to you, I was like, this guy gets it. Like sometimes people see us up on stage and they see us like we're zoo animals or like we're like, oh, some attraction. And they just think that we like fall out of bed, you know, drink a beer and then just say, I'll go and play a gig downtown. And it's all a constant party. And I think even some of the musicians in town think that, oh, it's easy to like get onto these big stages and develop these big audiences. And from my time in town, I've realized, man, this is a lot of work. And I think that people get in these positions, they don't get into them by accident. And it's like an intentional hustle and grind, and you have to pick where you're putting your energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why don't you just give me like a quick synopsis of your background in coming to Nashville, like your first couple years here?
Yeah. I'm from upstate New York.
Okay.
North of Albany.
Okay.
It's basically Vermont. I graduated with 40 kids, and I've been playing music since I was 12 years old. Is when I picked up a guitar. 15, I started playing out in the bars and really just hit the ground running. I went to my local bar. I played every Wednesday night for wing night just for tips. I was a kid. I couldn't even drive myself to the gigs yet.
So when did you move to Nashville?
That would be 2020. So
Okay.
a few years ago. Yeah, and I came because of COVID, and living in New York, my lifestyle that I developed from being a full-time musician up there just completely vanished.
Okay.
And I always wanted to move to Nashville, and all the right things kind of aligned, including COVID.
Okay.
And they just aligned at that time, and I couldn't have asked for it. I couldn't have planned it. It just happened.
So did you have a plan when you came to Nashville, or was it just go to Nashville?
No, I visited, and I saw Kid Rocks. I visited the year prior before COVID. Visited again during COVID, and I saw musicians, and I'm just like, wow, like they're entertaining. I want to entertain people like that.
Yeah.
You know, I was playing in bars where I was acoustic duo, and I was, you know, entertaining people to some extent, but this was the next level.
Yeah, like
Entertaining people, you know.
yeah. So like you were doing like kind of more like background ambiance, and you wanted to come in like
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that always frustrated me as a musician is it sucks when you go into the places where you're the background noise. You're struggling to get applause to fighting with the dinner crowd that doesn't even want music there at all. Or you're fighting with the sports games on TV. And
Yeah.
Nashville is so unique that people come here for the music, and there's nobody telling you to turn down.
So did you have a band when you came to town? Did you have any plans on designs on doing anything?
No, I should.
Okay.
I did have I moved here with my friend, he's a drummer, who we played together in upstate New York. But no plan. I mean, it was just kind of, hey, we need to start making some money because we had no jobs. And so I was playing 7 days a week, all different types of shifts, filling in singers with bands.
Okay.
I was.
So how did you even
shifts?
How did you get to that point? Just like even like you're a dude who comes in from out of town, some dude from New York. Why is anybody gonna hire you? Like nobody knows you. How do you make that happen?
I asked one of the singers that I looked up to playing at Kid Rocks. She helped me out of telling who to contact for Tootsies.
Okay.
And so I contacted them, and it was a long process of just months, and I mean months.
Okay.
Months of, they would call me at 9 a.m. and be like, can you be here right now? And I mean, like, right now? I'm like, yeah, right now.
Yeah.
And I lived about 15 minutes from town, so I would drive there. But those calls kept coming. Then I became someone they could lean on because I was reliable. I was available. So I became a name that was more present in their minds because, hey, we need to fill the spot. Let's call them.
Yeah. So like getting in that first gig, like how did you even do that? Did you do that word of mouth? Did you have a demo you handed out?
I went to a audition at Tootsie's, and it was during COVID, so there was nobody there, not even people who book. So after that day, I'm like, I heard nothing because
Yeah.
it was just there was nobody there. But I just kept persistent with it.
So how were you persistent?
Anita Hill, she helps book. You know, she really believed in me, and I kept in contact with her and would always be like just texting or calling, and she would call me for gigs. One day I subbed in for a girl singer who didn't show up, and it was all older guys, like 60 plus, all playing like Patsy Cline. And
Okay.
But the good thing is, I came from a background in upstate New York of playing an acoustic duo where I knew all the chords because I played guitar. I knew all the songs because I sang them all, and I had to learn a lot of different music. So I knew like, over like 1,000 songs already. There's songs I still had to learn here. I never heard Dixieland Delight before moving here. I feel like anybody should kind of have to go through that experience because it's always the challenges that make it better. It's been, especially sometimes when you fail. I remember I played a gig. I was filling in for a singer. I remember calling a song. It was a Josh Turner song. Josh Turner's got a very low voice, doing it in a different key.
Yeah.
I made the fatal mistake of calling the key in the first chord that it starts in, not the actual key, you know, and it was a train wreck. And I remember the drummer saying, I hope that we never do that again. And I just remember thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
And then after that, I didn't have that gig. But I just stayed in and, you know.
Did that shake your confidence at all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like confidence as a musician is just a weird dynamic because I like to stay confident because you got to believe in yourself or no one else will.
Yeah.
But also, it's always wavering. It's wavering now. Even when you look back, I look back a couple of years ago where I was to where I am now. It's obviously, I mean, everything is better. However, I'm always wanting to get better. So my confidence is always wavering. Yeah. I think that's what pushes me to want to get better.
And I'm going to screw with your head right now, and I'm going to say, let's take these lapel mics and let's put them outwardly like this, because I think it's going right into your chest. So it's going to be like, but that, you know, I think people will still get the message. Yeah, with like the country catalog, how long did you take to dive into all those songs?
It depends. I mean, I grew up on stuff like Johnny Cash.
Okay.
And Willie Nelson and some of the older country.
Yeah.
I knew more, actually. It was a lot of the newer country I didn't know. I had never sang Dixieland Delight before moving here. Never even heard it. Callin' Baton Rouge. There's plenty of songs, but there's also songs that I have, like Friends in Low Places, Tennessee Whiskey, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. I knew all those already. I grew up in a very rural spot where like there's just this mixture of music. Country music was really prevalent out there. Classic rock, pop music, rap. I mean, there wasn't like a style music. It's very mixed. And my dad was a wedding DJ, so I got that experience of entertaining people early, and I'd help him on his wedding gigs. And
that's interesting. I find that a lot of musicians here have some kind of background growing up in music or like it being a part of their identity.
Identity is a big thing. So when you don't feel you did your best, even though, because I always want to do my best.
Yeah.
But for whatever factor, you didn't feel like it went your way. That's a piece of your identity that's being questioned.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? It's like when someone questions your music, it's like questioning your existence, and you're like,
yeah.
Having those first couple gigs where I was just like, you know what I'm talking about, like when you first come to town and you are just wet behind the ears and you have.
Oh yeah, I mean depending on the time of day and the gig and who's calling the songs, it can be really fast paced.
Yeah.
Super fast paced. And
if you don't get on board, depending on who you're with on the gig, sometimes people can really like make it difficult for you and like make it worse.
Yeah.
Scare the shit out of you. And that's why like on every gig I play now, if there's somebody new there, I try to give them grace because I was that person.
Yeah.
And also that person can be calling me for gigs later on, you know, they might ascend. So like speaking of the ascension thing, when I walk by and see you at a gig, when I see you on a video, I was like, that's PJ. You are doing your thing, your brand, your shtick. You have your identity. When did you feel like you were able to become PJ and less like, I am just going to be a singer and I need to fill this job at this time slot? What was that process like?
I feel like I'm still becoming myself.
Okay.
But I like that you point that out because I have felt that in the past couple of years, just becoming more comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
I've 5'5". I've always been short, and I had insecurities of that growing up, and insecurities about all these little things, that I'm sure most of us have. But I just grew to like accept those. Hey, that's what makes me me. And I looked at people like Tom Petty and Angus Young, like I said, and Prince, and all these people who just, rather than running away from who they were, just fully jumped into who they were.
Yeah.
And that's when I started. And my girlfriend, Lauren, also really supported me in that. And she loves me for who I am. And that made me start to realize, like, maybe there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe I should just be me.
Yeah. That's really powerful.
Before moving to Nashville, I was living a very destructive lifestyle. Moving to Nashville is the best decision I ever made. And from that, more decisions I've made since then have just further made my life better. I was in Nashville in October of 2020, and I said, I'm moving here in 2 weeks. I have no money, but I'm moving here because I don't see another option for me. And everyone's like, you sure? That's kind of just a crazy thing to do. You have all this stuff you build in upstate New York, and you're just kind of going to throw that away. And I'm like, I need to do this. Yeah. And it's worked out.
Yeah,
so far.
I mean, it's a crazy, when you get put into the pressure cooker, when you get it's like a stress test. You like find out a lot of things about yourself, good and bad. And I think music, especially performing on stage, if you have insecurity, that either drives you, or it drives you in a couple directions to be like, okay, I'm going to overcome this, or you might find some coping mechanisms. I frequently talk about that. When I first came to Nashville, I was dealing with years of insecurity, and starting to play music again really exposed that. And I felt like I was nothing. And it took me a while to get my feet underneath me, and also like cut out some destructive behavior that I'm still working on. But I thank music for kind of like getting me there. I was curious about, like, have you ever gone to therapy? Have you done anything like that? Or is that things we don't talk about here?
Oh, no, I did therapy when I lived in New York. I haven't done it in Nashville.
Okay.
And it's really just more of a matter of time management right now.
Yes.
Every day when I wake up is kind of eat, sleep, breathe music. It's
absolutely.
Not just the gig. It's vocal coach. It's rehearsals. It's booking. We do our original projects. Yeah. It's recording. It's networking. It's going to other shows. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's a full-time. Yeah. People.
The gig is the gig, but beyond the gig, there's a lot more.
You're talking about your week right now. How many gigs are you playing right now per week on Nashville's Broadway?
4.
Okay, so you're playing 4.
4, yeah.
And is that enough to sustain you right now? Are you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long did it take you to get to that point where you're like, I'm comfortable, or not comfortable, but like, oh, I can afford to buy meals today?
At the beginning, I was working 7 days a week, but making less money per gig, and less money than it was now. So I was working more for less. Yeah,
I mean, that's the way it often goes.
No matter where you're from, where you come from, when you get here, you're starting new.
Yeah.
You got to pay your dues. Yeah. So where I got to now to go down to 4 days a week and be, you have more money, you spend it. Because now the money I make, I wouldn't have been able to spend. I wouldn't have had to spend a couple years ago. Yeah. But now the money I make goes into stuff like recording and making music videos. And investing in yourself. I'd say it does probably take, I don't know. It's probably different for everybody, For me, it probably took about 1.5 years to get comfortable, at least financially, where it's like, okay,
I can maybe invest into like getting some.
I was comfortable when working. I was comfortable working 7 days a week, but that was just because I had to work more. Yeah. But it's not sustainable to do that forever.
Yeah, it's like a sprint. Yeah. And really, I always say the music industry is, sometimes people sprint, but it's a marathon. And you might see someone surge ahead of you for like, a couple miles, but if you can easily wear yourself out. Oh, yeah. Like mentally and physically.
Oh, yeah. And two, I think about it so differently than, I know, a lot of the language is funny here. I hear, shift, which to me is always like, I think of a factory, Yeah,
it's kind of like a punching a time.
But it's cool because this is a musician's workplace. When we're going to the parking garage, we're all in the elevator together. We're like, hey, where are you going? That's a cool thing.
I love waving to my friends as I'm walking by.
But I never call it a shift because I think I will call it a gig, but I do think of it as a show because I think of it as, I don't want to just go in there and just play music. I want to entertain these people, you know?
Man, that's a really good point. And like the gears are turning around in my tiny smooth brain right now. Like when you're talking about gig and show, because I had a partner who used to call it. She was like, "I'm gonna go see your show." I'm like, "It's not a show. It's a gig. It's just like job." And what we're talking about, insecurity, like.
But do you want to think of it? Why do you want to lower it?
Well, so that's what, like, I'm much different now, but like thinking we were talking about insecurity before.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just like literally in this moment, I was realizing, oh, that's just some old insecurity talking up because it's not that important. It's not that big a deal. I want to be playing bigger gigs, bigger shows, bigger stages, and this isn't where I want to be right now. So I'm going to diminish it.
Right.
And, you know, acting like it's old hat, like I'd been there before, but like really where I'm trying to go to different, bigger places. And like what you say about that, like really made me, oh, okay, that turned on a light for me. And also what you're saying about like a show now.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people be like, dude, you're doing way too much. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, but I want to treat everything like it's a show. Mm-hmm. Like I literally try to promote things. I literally tried to take video and stream it online. I tried to make the most of it because that's
right.
An opportunity for everybody to see you.
Yeah.
And if you treat every gig like it's a Super Bowl, when the Super Bowl shows up, you are ready for it. You're like,
right.
And sometimes it's really hard to do when you're working so much, though.
Exactly. So I do think there is a diminishing contrast of quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
There's a certain, I don't know what the threshold is. Everyone's probably got a different threshold. Mm-hmm. But I know for me, I'm like, hey, 4 is that perfect. Like, I know I can go and deliver high energy for 4 nights.
Yeah.
I don't want to do more than that because as a singer, and it's 4 hours. I mean, I do have 2 great female co-fronts. Awesome. So we share that, but it's still really high energy. I mean, you've seen the stuff like,
yeah,
we really go like, we're not just sitting up there playing music.
Yeah, it's like literally, so you're talking about your dad being a DJ. I see you play. I feel like you're a DJ in the sense that you're curating the energy of the room. You're helping drive, steer the ship. You're taking people on a journey and say like, hey, where are we going to go here? And people have to be able to trust you to do that.
Right.
And that takes a lot of confidence and experience to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't always go your way either. Sometimes you got to take some risks too. But definitely, it's a fun part. You never know what the room is going to look like. Like we were talking about a younger crowd versus the crowd and all that's, you know, that's why it's also, you can go in with, I go in sometimes and I'm thinking, I'm going to start it this way. And then I'll look out and I'll be like, no. We got to do this instead.
You call it audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's fine. And it's a fun part of the job because you really never know what to expect. Sometimes my expectations I set really high. They don't get met. So I always just kind of go in with, I'm going to put on the best show as possible, give it my all, and if they're going to take it or leave it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And so, like, you also talked about doing original stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that musicians really kind of struggle with balancing in Nashville in the sense that, like, okay, I can play on Broadway, make some money, but I'm so tired for my original stuff that I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, like, me personally, like, I roll the dice by going out on the road with original artists I believe in, and I lose money because I know I can make more money in town, but I'm like, if I'm playing on Broadway 7 nights a week, it's never going to lead to anything, so I need to go out and start developing some things. Mm-hmm. So where do you balance that? Like, where do you find a place where, like, okay, I'm going to bet on myself, bet on my original stuff, and what's your strategy with it?
Well, interestingly enough, I use that exact term, betting on myself, in a new song I have coming out next week.
Okay.
Here's the plug.
Shameless plug. Go ahead. Yeah, no, plug it.
It's called Leap of Faith.
Okay.
It's out this Friday.
It's out this Friday. Okay, so I have to be like, all right, have this ready by Thursday so PJ can use this.
If it's already out, hey, go stream it now.
Okay.
But Leap of Faith, if you see from my videos, I crowd surf a lot. It's a staple. We don't do it every night, but we do it probably, I would say, 60, 70% of nights.
It's like when you feel you're like
Feel the energy.
okay, yeah,
I was like, you know what? I'm always crowd surfing to like Beastie Boys or Rage Against the Machine or something, AC/DC, something like upbeat, rocking. But I want my own song to crowd surf.
okay,
So I'm gonna write one, and then I started as I was writing it. The whole concept of leap of faith is like a double entendre for, chasing your dreams.
yeah, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, metaphor. And so I came up with this rockin' song, taking that leap of faith,
Yeah,
chasing something you believe in. You do have to take risks. You're going to have to choose at some point money or dream.
yeah, money. Like, do you want to be famous? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be stable? You have to find the calculus for yourself because everyone has this different formula where they all intersect. Like, I know that I could make really good income playing on Broadway every day. And I don't want to knock Broadway at all because it was great for me learning all these songs. It was great for meeting people. But like, where's the next step? Like,
I mean, if you have that, not every musician is an artist.
yeah,
And I do realize that from playing with so many great musicians is some people are more technical brain. They love, they're more about the instrument itself.
or they're like a database of like, I know all these songs.
Yeah.
I know all these formulas for this. I can play this exactly how it
Use
is.
music for, different outlet.
Yeah.
If you have the artist brain where you're like, I needed to express myself.
Yeah.
And then that's where it does meet, there's some grinding there with Broadway a little bit because you are limited,
Yeah.
But Broadway does teach you, I think, how to become a great performer,
Absolutely.
how to learn, first of all, not only also to write a great song, because you play some of the greatest songs of all time, all the time,
Yeah.
and you can really kind of adapt from that, where you'll take little things, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, where you're like, this was just super great. What was he saying here? And why was he saying it like this in this performance? And when you really dive into people's songs, I think it makes you a better songwriter, because not that you're going to copy what they do, but to understand,
What are your plans for the future right now in terms of with the original stuff? And like, are you going to keep one foot in like Broadway? Or are you staying in Nashville? What are the plans?
What's funny enough is like this actually felt like my first year I had my both feet planted in Nashville.
Yeah.
Which when you do that, I do believe the fruits of your labor will start to show better
Okay.
rather than leaving if you want to get into the Nashville world.
Okay.
Plant both feet.
Okay.
Because
So-
I think I had one foot still at home.
Oh, in
with
New
just-
York?
Yeah, just with various like going back to do some shows there and stuff like that. And then you got to think, well, why did I move away from there in the first place? I moved here because I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And so I got into that mindset over the past year, and that's helped. But to your point, we're playing a show at the Vinyl Lounge. Here's another shameless plug. July 17th with our friends Truck Stop Famous and Sammy Cope. This fall, we started booking some regional one-offs.
Yeah.
So we're going to places that are like 3-4 hours away. Cincinnati, Louisville, Birmingham, Atlanta, Boone, Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Cities surrounding Nashville, if you think about it, in a circle. And our hope is, hey, maybe a couple of these spots click.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can expand the circle out. So if Cincinnati really clicks, we can hit Cleveland next time and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
In a run. But let's start here, expand out. It's such a different time period too than bands in the 70s, 80s, 90s did it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. With social media. So we're very fortunate here in Nashville to have, these venues and this exposure that we're getting.
Yeah, this infrastructure where
We're probably getting more exposure, to be honest, at Kid Rocks than we are. I mean, clearly, than to go in some venue in Cincinnati and play our original music. So it's just, how do you convert those people over? If you can tie your brand into your Broadway show, which I feel like I've done more successfully again the past year, I think that starts to help.
Yeah, I think COVID really changed things. Like, things were already going that direction, and COVID just accelerated it. But, like, with the internet and everything blowing up and people realizing, things are different now. And now musicians, we need to be not only a musician, not only a songwriter, but we need to be a marketing expert. We need to be an expert photographer, expert copywriter. We need to have strategy. it's essentially every musician has to act like their own independent record label and think about where am I budgeting, like, and think about money, or like your most valuable asset is going to be your attention, your energy. Where do you budget that? And some people blow all their budget on marketing and nothing for music, and vice versa. Some people say, I'm going to go in the woodshed, play 80 hours a day, and then come out in like a year or two and be a badass, and no one's going to know who I am, you know? And it's a real balance. And especially like things like now, like all these social media platforms, everything is just kind of like, okay, we see one strategy work, and then someone tries to chase that strategy. And then by the time you're there, another strategy has worked. And like, yeah, you just have to like chase what you do. And like,
I wish I could say I had it figured out. I don't at all.
oh no, no one does.
I was just saying to somebody the other day, I said, my whole life musically has been an uphill climb.
Yeah.
But in a good way, I've always climbed. However, I've never made a huge jump.
Yeah.
It's always been going up, going up, going up,
gradual.
going up. I'm still climbing. And what's weird is I've seen people climb, like you said, climb past me, but then fall down.
Yeah.
But I've always been climbing up. But I've never had that like moment where it's like, oh, that big thing happened overnight.
Yeah, you're waiting for that click.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can really control that. That's something that, I mean, I've had a lot of great moments. So like, but they just happen.
It's not like something like you were like playing on a sidewalk somewhere and a record executive said, I'm going to sign you.
Right, like you see like in these biopics or in these biographies, or like you get, I think like I Walk the Line, Johnny Cash, where like, it's like, or it's like, that really, does that happen? I mean, it does happen. Look at this is a really bad example. This is a whole nother topic, but that Hawk Tuah girl, look at what happened to her life overnight. We shouldn't make people famous for stupid things. You know what I mean? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I find that a lot of times people, they want to see a spectacle. They don't want to see anything of substance, and I can't control that.
No, we can't. I think, and that's probably just bitterness too of that. Again, another conversation I'm just having is, as a musician, we're grinding it out.
Yeah.
We're grinding it out in the bar for 4 hours, and we see somebody who hasn't had to do that at all. Just go right to the top.
Yeah.
But you can't be bitter about that, because that's their path.
Yeah.
And your path's going to be different.
You know, and they're just being their authentic selves.
Right.
And maybe sometimes, like, when you have a moment of authenticity, it catches. I think about that authenticity, and I was thinking about this as like, oh, like, you know, I just rescued a kitten last month, and it's exploded on social media. It's made more money and has more followers than me. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's funny. And I'm not mad about it, because I'm like, well, I decided I wanted to do YouTube. I want to start just putting energy into social media and be authentic. And it's easier said than done. It's like, so when I get like the cameras rolling and stuff, sometimes I get on my camera voice.
Yeah. And
the same thing on stage, like we like have this filter talking to us inside and like criticizing what we do and saying we should do this. Where somebody just comes along and says, I'm just going to be as authentic as I can possibly be. I'm going to talk about spitting on a dick, you know? And like, hey, like if that's somebody that's like who they are, cool. Like,
no, and that is, I don't know why it warrants millions of dollars, but
you know what
I mean? That's where I start to see him like, why are people like throwing their cash at this? I saw somebody get a tattoo of it, and I'm like, might be jumping the gun.
I've stopped thinking about that so much. Is like, I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, I just get to play music now, and if I can just keep on being me.
Can't compare yourself to others. It's tough in Nashville, because you're constantly going to do that,
dude. Like you see everybody blowing up, or everyone do.
But also, I see a lot of people, and it is a fake it till you make it. A lot of people with their social media projects isn't necessarily inauthentic, but it does make them appear bigger.
It's curated,
but as it should be. You want to put probably your best self out there.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
I don't want to put me sitting on the couch in my hand in my pants watching TV. You know, they're married with children.
I bet you if you did that, though,
I mean, you know what? Maybe you're onto something.
You know, my core mission is to be authentic, to be myself, to give people permission to be themselves and lean into the awkwardness and lean into that, like, oh, life, music, it's all messy. We're seeing all this stuff out there that makes it seem like it isn't. And that's just my mission. So it's just like my mission isn't going to be the same as someone else's, right? A church's mission is going to be different than McDonald's mission, which is going to be different than a teen's mission. It's like, it's not good or bad, but just like, oh, knowing who you are and where you're going, just being intentional.
For me, it's always been just trying to figure that out as I go. I've pinpointed things as I go along, but as you said, with therapy and other things, all these things can help. I think it was the movie Anger Management. Adam Sandler, Jack
Nicholson, yeah.
And Adam Sandler's on the plane. Not on the plane. He's in the meeting with Jack Nicholson, and Jack Nicholson says, "Tell us who you are." Mm-hmm. And he says, "Oh, well, I'm whatever, and I do this for a living." He's like, "Well, that's what you do for work. But who are you?" And he goes further, and he's like, "Well, I get that, but that doesn't really tell us who you are. And who are you?" And that's really tough to define when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I like my mind is already exploding right now. And I wanted to like come here and talk about you and not have a therapy session with Dr. PJ. But like really knowing like when I lost the ability to play music, I lost my identity.
So you lost the ability to play music. How was...
Well, so long story short, I got ran over by a truck. And that set me off on about a long journey. That's how I initially came to Nashville, because I'd gone on this journey where I decided, okay, well, I'm going to become an Ironman athlete. And then so I was doing Ironmans, and I was like, I'm going to rehab other athletes and other musicians. And I eventually like went back to school and was coming to Nashville to rehab musicians with injuries. And, you know...
Have you been telling this story? I'm sure you have told the story.
I mean, I've told some versions of it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like I've put some like I still haven't framed it properly, because
that's almost a book in itself. Right?
Yeah, I mean you're
doing the most physical thing you could also do as a musician, which is drumming.
Yeah, and I always tell people that the greatest trauma was the mental trauma, not the physical trauma. I never really got over that or resolved it, and I think there was also some insecurities from before that accident, from like growing up, and all those insecurities just kind of just like started building up inside of me, and they just kind of slowly exploded when they were in Nashville. And I was like, I need to like go to therapy. I decided to stop my pursuit of my business of helping out injured musicians. I was really just acting in destructive ways to myself. And I was scared and angry and really insecure. And part of me, I mean, I'm still working through a lot of things, figure out my identity, and like also like, okay, I want to play music, but that's not my sole identity, and like just being myself. And that's kind of where I started doing like YouTube stuff, where I was just like, man, my life is a mess right now. I'm scared. Yeah, I'm going through a lot of things. I don't have any answers, but I just want to document this because no one talks about this shit.
Yeah.
So that's like, and this has probably been like the most difficult personal year of my life, but also like the most rewarding in terms of career, in terms of betting on myself.
Yeah. So
it's a really interesting, I'm sorry, I assumed you knew all that backstory.
No.
But
I'm glad to hear it though. Like, I'm glad to hear this because I didn't know. But do you feel like you're in a good place right now?
Man, that's a really good question. I would say the easiest way to say it is that I'm pretty much heartbroken right now, and I'm pretty much like every day is like a struggle to get out of bed. That's legit truth.
Which is, shocking again, but this is being authentic, is that I come in here, I see you doing these YouTube videos, this streaming, this setup, and you're always working downtown. You set up the fantasy football and curated, like, in my mind, you're active and you're always doing something.
Yeah.
But I totally understand that, because when I was at my darkest, that's the same thing. It's a struggle to get out of bed. I wrote a whole album on it. It never been released, and I wrote a book on it. It's never been released, but it's a crazy thing. I think artists are very depressive types.
Yeah, we feel life in these big, bold, bright colors. And that's great because you can write and you can emote that way. And then just sometimes it can just be a little bit too much. And it's like, I try to stay active because staying in bed's not going to do anything. And I also don't try to hide it from people. I don't like wear it out in my sleeve.
Yeah.
But I also want to give people permission. Like, it's okay to like go to therapy. It's okay to have like demons and darkness. It's okay to like forgive yourself, and okay to work at being a better version of yourself so you can be better to other people. And so that's like right now, I would say that like I'm really engaged musically. And I'm also like going on this journey where I'm like digging into some deep, dark, heavy stuff with myself, like walking every morning, journaling, going to therapy like 3 times a week, like in the thick of things. And like some days I feel like, oh man, I'm turning the corner. And then some days I'm like, man,
I think everyone should talk about it more, because only if we all realize like that we're all feeling this way, it's more like it's this solidarity thing where it's like, because that's the thing that I always struggled the most with growing up, is I felt like an alien on this earth. Like, I'm like felt alone, of like, man, I feel like everyone's in on the joke, and I never got the memo. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just weird and different, and we're all still different, but we're very alike.
Yeah. And like, I make the point, and I'm right now, like, I know my color guy's going to kill me for like having the sun in my eyes, and he's going to, but I don't care. Joe, sorry, you're going to have to fix this. I've made the point on my YouTube channel that like when you're having a shitty day and your things are terrible and you feel like sad, and you hear a sad song that describes how you feel, it makes you feel better. It doesn't give you the answers, but it makes you feel seen and heard and understood and not so alone. And I think that's what, like, it's just acknowledging the human experience, acknowledging your humanity. And so that's what I kind of wanted to do with my YouTube. I wanted to be like, well, I mean, I wasn't going to come in here and be sad emo boy, but I just wanted to give people permission to be like, life is messy and hard. And there's like ups and downs. Like some of my proudest moments, my biggest highs in life, I've been like playing a shift on Nashville's lower, like playing a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday shift and be like, I didn't mess up today. Oh man.
Yeah.
And it's so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, but like it made me feel great. And giving people like permission to be like, it's okay to celebrate those victories. Like, meanwhile, the guys who I went to college with are like out headlining arenas right now, playing with the biggest stars in the world. And like,
well, I get you're comparing, and we should always aspire for more. You're comparing yourself to the people above you.
Yeah.
What about, why don't you compare it to the people who really wish they could be playing music in Nashville on Broadway for a living, playing music for a living, period. The people that never they always wanted to do it, for whatever reason didn't do it. And there's a lot of those people out there.
Yeah. And it takes, it takes a certain amount of courage, and I think a certain amount of support also as well from your family and your friends.
We would be miserable at some insurance job.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about clocking in anywhere. We're not thinking about
how long till this is.
I've worked at the jobs, and we're not thinking about any of those things that come with those job duties. We're thinking about music every day.
Yeah, it's like we're on our journey. We're like, everything I do
for every moment. We're not on the clock at every moment.
Yeah.
But we are, every day is music. And that's not, there is a small fraction of people on this earth that get to say that, really.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think sometimes when we're tired and we're dragging on these gigs, like I've been there before, but it's like also like I get to sit down and play, which is, and when I didn't have that, it was rough, but like I'm on this journey. I've kind of hid my journey from other people because in the past, because I felt like I wasn't worthy or I wasn't good enough because my other friends were up there and I wasn't. But also like I found that taking other people on the journey with you and sharing it with them and then thanking them for helping you is rewarding for them as well. It's like literally you're doing, like no one does it alone.
And remember, every job too has its pros and cons. So your friends are headlining arenas, they're open and honest, like, yeah, like it's great and it's phenomenal. But however, I'm not making as much money as you guys are on Broadway.
Yeah, it's wild.
But again, it's not all about money.
Yeah.
But there's pros and cons is what I'm saying.
Like, how do you measure your success and your happiness?
Yeah, it depends on what you want in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, I live a very laid back lifestyle, 1-bedroom apartment. I don't I don't need things. I always live for experiences.
Yeah.
So experiences is what I seek.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I traded in having all this nice stuff, having a nice car, a nice couch to be able to like travel the world and like play in front.
I drove a Toyota Corolla my whole life and I love it.
Yeah.
I don't need it anymore. But everyone's different and they have different goals depending on how they grew up or whatever. That's fine. As long as you're happy with where you're at.
Yeah, and I felt like I needed to be like a completed version of myself to be able to like share that with my friends and family. And I realized that it's the journey, not the destination.
Yes.
But like not just for myself, but like having them see that as well, see the evolution, see like go the ups and downs.
Like, just like a couple weeks ago, I put it out there. I wanted to be like, I woke up feeling a certain way, and I'm like, I just want to tell people how it is. Like I said, I'm an independent artist. There's no money backing me, no labels, no investors. I bet on myself. I've spent this amount of money on myself, marketing, recording, all this stuff. And they actually got a great response. And I was surprised. And somebody said, I hope it all works out for you in the end. And I'm like, there is no end though.
Yeah.
It's just a journey along the way.
Yeah. It's like also like I will do this till I die, not because I have to, but that's who I am. I play music.
Exactly. And I think of Jim Carrey where he said, I wish everyone could be rich and famous for a day to see it's not the answer.
Yeah.
And that is something I think about almost every day, because sometimes when people think that I'm like, wow, he's doing so great. Look at him. Like inside, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But I can say I struggle a lot less than I used to.
Yeah.
From that period of 2020 to now, the past couple of years, I've struggled a lot less. That's helped a lot with just, and not to get preachy here, because I'm not, but just I cut alcohol out of my life and various other substances, and that just gave me a clearer mind to set my priorities straight.
Yeah, it's hard in the moment, but then like you realize months later, you're like, oh wow, I am so much more A, B, C. Like the list is like, and it's just delayed gratification. I have to wrap it up now because I have another gig I got to go to, and I'm sure you do too. And holy shit, yeah.
Yes.
I was planning on this being done by like 6:30. Shit. I'm gonna stop the cameras.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
but do you have anything to plug so I can put in? I know my color guy's gonna hate
I know I already plugged it, but let me just plug it one more time so you have it. If just in case you want to cut it.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I have a new single, a rock and roll barn burner called Leap of Faith, coming out this Friday, streaming everywhere. We're also playing in Nashville, if you're in Nashville, on July 17th at the Vinyl Lounge. My band is Tennessee Strange.
All right.